People, welcome to Blue Cage Jazz Dance. I'm the first individual who believes in sharing my acts of achievement through learning materials. I'm the first individual to believe, yes, we can take up the stance that Dr. Colonel West, this is Dr. Colonel West, he's one of my icons. Dr. Colonel West is very much one of my icons, but Dr. Colonel West was the first person to identify about status quo individuals being white or black in a society at large who was spreading myths, misconceptions about our culture. UK jazz dance culture, which I am a pioneer of, this is the 45th year for me as original pioneer from 1975 to now. I'm still dancing. There's been nothing but a miseducation in UK jazz dancing, and I started to talk about that miseducation in the 90s and the 80s through lectures and talks. I started to talk about what's happened has been, unfortunately, we have had individual dominant DJs in the dominant Western DJs have been the voice for us through radio, have been the dominant voice through interviews, talking about UK jazz dance. They don't dance, so what would they know about the dance? The dance never happened in a dance field. There's not knowledge on there. They've never come to me or come to the dancers, come to dancers who have expert knowledge, because many dancers don't know this art form is a PhD subject, and what you should do as a dance expert, which I am, there's a way, there's a good practice of studying dance. First of all, you have to know dance is a PhD subject. Dance doesn't happen in a vacuum. Social dance doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's influenced by political, economic, technological environment and legal structures in it. It's influenced by movers and shakers. It's influenced by people who come from different backgrounds, who are influenced by the parents. It's influenced by their DNA. It's influenced by people living in the north, south, east and west of where they live. So example, in the north of Cuba, in Havana and all that, that's where rumba really came from. That happened through a type of political state that took place and how people were treated there. I'm from the north of England. This is me working, giving people a talk about me and my dance in UK jazz. And what am I talking about? I'm actually talking about what dance did for me was I used it to improve my health and well-being, but I used it to prepare me for the RAF. I used it to overcome shyness. I was a person with two left feet. I was a person who was not seen as popular in my school, popular in my society, but I saw that dancers got kudos for developing their dancing, and I developed my dancing. So each dancer had an individual independent use for it. I developed my own culture. My culture is Blue UK jazz dance culture. I have my own heritage. I've got a Jamaican father, Jamaican mother. As an individual, I was the first one that said, do you want to learn about dance and health movement, lifestyle in the UK and abroad? Well, UK jazz dance is one. My art form, I used it for health and well-being with youth groups. I went into Europe and showed about the diversity. Health for oneself is having positive information, rightful information about yourself, and we've been taught negative information about blacks. Blacks were taught that they were inferior. Blacks were told the dark skin, you're inferior to light skinned people. You were told that your dances are inferior. In the north of England, the south of England was saying their style's better than ours. That would make people feel inferior, would it not? So I came into this knowledge base, acts of achievement. My acts of achievements was I was the first dancer to broaden people's horizons around how dance has played an important role in the roles of marginalized groups. So I identified who were the first people to make jazz popular. Was it not African diaspora people? Who was the first people to make blues popular? Was it not African diaspora people? And spread that music and spread that dancing. Was it not us? Who made drumming music popular for people? Was us. But what did Westerners do? They distorted that history and identified it was inferior music and then adopted it. Who made flamenco popular? Who made tango popular? Who made jig, reel and clog and hornpipe and dance to mix together popular? Was the father of jazz, Master Juba. In 1843, he beat the best dancers in America. That's why he got his name. The jig dancer, reel, clog dancers, and by fusing his dance, learning their dance styles, showing people that he knew them, and then he fused them with his African American dance style, which was West Indian African dance styles, and he created jazz. He made jazz popular. Then we as individuals schools were created to pass on his knowledge, do you understand? And African diaspora people were written out of it, and Westerners said we did this and did that. They never did that. And so part of my work is, this is why Dr. Colonel West is important. What happened was Western society created groups to keep black people out of their own industry. So Black and White Minstrel Show is a prime example. From 1750, let's go to Jim Crow. If a black person in 1750 tried to imitate a Jim Crow, they'd be hung from a tree. They'd be killed. That is our industry, our history of black people's dance, okay? And what happened then, middle class saw that this dance could make money, and they created what is called Black and White Minstrel Show. The Black and White Minstrel Show came from 1830 to 1987 in the UK. In the theatres, was the #1 light entertainment, people ridiculing blacks. That was our life. And so what happened was, nobody spoke about this because that Black and White Minstrel Show is part of jazz development, and that's missed out. Is that right? No, it's not right. What happened, people dictated how our art should be, and they want to have a status quo. So Dr. Colonel West talked about that. And I was an individual, started to do studies, I started to do talks. And what happened was, I was writing out the key book on UK jazz dance. They did different areas. Manchester, I was written out of it, and that had to be the greatest laugh in the history of time, because I'm the longest dancer ever, the first official dancer to actually go and teach dancing through lectures. And that many dancers never did no lectures, many dancers didn't have a lab, many dancers didn't take it to dance colleges, many dancers didn't mix it with African tap and all that. Officially, I did that individual as an individual. And this is why Dr. Colonel West is important, because what happens is, leaders who are out there as leaders need to reclaim their legacy of leadership, because we come once. Our social dancing says who we are, what we are, where we come through, and the times that we're living as an individual, which is important. That's why Dr. Colonel West is important. And I created a project, Rebirth for the Cool, a long time ago. It was called Birth for the Cool, then we went to Birth for the Cool in '86. I created it to give 110% dedication to celebrating my legacy of leadership as a dancer. So this was the ironic thing when I was writing out the history. Now what happened, I was away at university when this book was being written. The irony, I saw the writer of that book, and I went to work with him and the publisher to try to redress this fact. Not only me, many people who contribute to UK jazz dance, especially women, were written out the history. That was unacceptable when women are at the heart of our self-expression and creativity. Creativity is a female thing. Is that mothers are more self-expressive than fathers. Socially, physically, intellectually, culturally, you have to understand that straight up. And it's important, but they were written out, just like Latin American women were written out, just like Western women have been written out of history. Look at Maria Montessori, for example, Maria Montessori example as individuals. Look at her history as an individual in Europe, because women were written out. Look at Africa. You don't know enough about Brazilian women's contribution to society, or West Indian women, because they've had a history of being nullified out of history, and I refuse to have that. I'm not going to talk about dance when a lot of women were the individuals that taught me dance. For example, a woman called Sharon Ray, for example, amazing dancer as an individual. I used to meet her on the UK jazz dance circuit. We used to travel to all days. She was studying under a gentleman called Charles Orgins. She used to give me tips. One time she took my stomach, she said, you need to get stronger in your core muscles, do this and do that. Through meeting teachers and meeting sisters and collaborating, that's how the dancers evolved, because many of the male dancers were at dance school. Many of the female dancers were at dance school doing tap, doing ballet, doing modern. Some were doing African dance. I went to join an African dance group. I knew people like Judith Palmer. I went to Black Dance Development events, etc. A lot of females. Karen Lawrence taught me about African dancing, Caribbean dancing. Do you understand? More female African diaspora women have taught me about dance than Western women have taught me about dance, than males have taught me about dance. So how can they be left out of the history? It's through them I learned about excellence. Through them I learned about teaching. A girl called Fiona Gray is important. Jackie from Manchester Youth Dance Centre. Emma Egbo is most essential, important for me, because she was the first dancer who turned me on to doing contemporary dance. It was her. It was a solo she did. She made me realise this is what you can do to contemporary dance with my body. When I seen her dance, I said I'm going to take contemporary dance serious, because at first I didn't take it contemporary dance serious because I was a UK jazz dancer. And I went to support my friend. He told me he's doing contemporary dance. I went to a class. I wasn't very interested because I never got to see what black dancers could do with their bodies. But I got to see what black dancers could do with their body through Emma Egbo. She was the first person that turned me onto it. Then later on, I started to watch Brenda Edwards, as in Fiona Gray and all them, Jackie. as individuals at Manchester Youth Dancer. But then I started to look at contemporary female dancers. Brenda Edwards was a very much so, Carol Stryker,